What do you wish people knew?
The only thing I could hope for at this point is just want people to see me as a human being.
You're right, try. That's what I do. You're the most spoiled brat. And you got everybody out here.
This is a case about the impact of Amber Heard's words on Johnny Depp.
For 6 weeks, millions of viewers around the world were glued to their screens.
The next move was just a bang, and she clocked me in the jaw.
But you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are your toes?
What am I supposed to do? Do this?
How are your toes?
I'm not sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are.
Oh,
that's the difference between me and you. You're a fucking baby.
Because you start physical fights?
You're such a baby!
Because
Grow the fuck up,
Because you start physical fights?
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did.
It just hit me over and over and over again, and I thought, this is how I die.
Mr. Depp, have you ever physically assaulted Miss Heard?
Never.
Have you ever sexually assaulted Miss Heard?
Never. Certainly not.
What have you lost as a result of Miss Heard making these allegations against you?
Nothing less than everything. She has a need for conflict. She has a need for violence. We must. There can be no physical violence.
I can't promise you that I'll be perfect. I can't promise you I won't get physical again. God, I fucking sometimes get so mad I lose it.
I would not blame the average person for looking at this and how it's been covered. And not think that it is a Hollywood brat. What people don't understand is it's actually so much bigger than that. This is not only about our First Amendment right to speak.
The First Amendment protects free speech. It doesn't protect lies that amount to defamation.
This is what we call defamatory.
And that was the issue in the case.
We get the concept of free speech from the Greeks.
You can please tell people that it was a fair fight and see what the jury and judge think.
It's a freedom to speak truth to power.
But truth is the word.
Yes.
And that was the issue.
And that's all I spoke.
I made the pledge. I want to be very clear. I pledged the entirety. I haven't been able to fulfill those pledges because I've been sued.
You had all of the $7 million for 13 months before Mr. Depp sued you, and you chose not to pay it to the charities you pledged it to. That correct, Ms.
I
Heard?
disagree with your characterization of that.
Because the op-ed wasn't about my relationship with Johnny.
But it alluded to him. It was unmistakable. It alluded to him. It was unmistakable.
You know, what the op-ed was about was, me loaning my voice to a bigger cultural conversation that we were having at the time. It was about reforms, legislative reforms, renewing the Violence Against Women Act.
One of the hallmark characteristics of histrionic personality disorder is sort of a overly dramatic presentation. We call this impressionistic speech, and it can go on for quite some time, and yet it really lacks any substance. So at the end, you're left wondering what was just said.
Did you worry that that's going to stir this all up again?
You know, that's a great question, and one that I wish was considered more seriously because it's important.
Really?
At the end, you're left wondering what was just said.
I didn't want this to be a thing. I didn't want it to be a trial. I didn't want it to be a part of the public record. But when someone sues you, you don't really have a choice.
Look, you do whatever you feel you have to do. I'm telling you now, it's a mistake to go to court. But if you want to go to court, we'll go to court. I would rather take care of it a different way. I think it would be very good for you, and I think it would be very good for me.
Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp, man, I'm a victim too of domestic violence, and yes. I know it's a fair fight. And see how many people believe or side with you.
And it's common then for them to accuse them of being the perpetrator, the victim.
That's a characteristic of abuse from women perpetrated against men. It's actually very, very common. About 90% of male victims of IPV have reported that a female partner who abuses them makes threats to report their partner as an abuser. It's less common for men to make that statement to female partners just because there's less potential consequence.
Are you nervous?
Of course. I took for granted what I assumed was my right to speak, not just about what I lived through, but what I knew.
I heard and saw a closed fist contact Mr. Depp in the left side of his face.
And whose fist was that?
That was Miss Heard's fist, Amber Heard's fist.
The Depp team argued that you were the abuser.
I never had to instigate it.
I responded to it.
I don't hesitate, I don't wait, I just, in my head, instantly think of Kate Moss and the stairs, and I swung at him, hit him, like actually hit him, square in the face.
As I testified to, if it meant the difference between a broken nose or a sore cheek, I would do it.
It really lacks any substance. So at the end, you're left wondering what was just said.
What about the witnesses who said they have seen you instigate physical violence?
Because you start physical fights?
Such a baby!
Because
Grow
you,
the fuck up,
because you start
Johnny.
physical fights?
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did.
I know much has been made of these audio tapes.
Have I ever been able to knock you off of your feet?
You started,
Off your balance?
you started these
You're
things.
going to get up on the stand, Johnny, and say she started it? Really?
And as I testified on the stand, what you would hear in those clips are not evidence of what was happening. It was evidence of a negotiation of how to talk about that with your abuser.
And it can go on for quite some time, and yet it really lacks any substance. So at the end, you're left wondering what was just said.
When you're in an abusive dynamic, psychologically, emotionally, and physically, you don't have the luxury of saying, hey, this is black and white, because it's anything but when you're in.
And it can go on for quite some time, and yet it really lacks.
He says he never hit you. Never. Is that a lie?
Yes, it is.
I don't think so.
You were violent in that clip, correct?
Clearly I was having a bad time.
You didn't react?
I did assault a couple of cabinets, but I did not touch Miss Heard.
You poured yourself a mega pint of red wine, correct?
A mega pint?
Yeah.
He says he's never struck any woman. None of his other prior relationships, not one woman has come forward and said he physically hit them. You were the only one.
You've heard in this case, Amber Heard is not a true victim. And Mr. Depp certainly is not an abuser. Again, nobody has come out of the woodwork to say, Me Too. This is the unique and singular Me Too case where there's not a single Me Too.
I am testifying about sexual assault and domestic violence.
And at the same time, the
have
guy that runs away and
You run away every single fight.
Okay, so, I mean, then what are you
Then I'm not
doing
lying
with me?
about it.
Then what are you doing with me?
I already answered that. We went through this conversation literally 5 minutes ago. I answered this already 5 minutes ago.
You just said to me that I shouldn't be with you.
Do you stand by your testimony and your accusations against Johnny Depp about abuse?
Of course, and I will to my dying day. I know what happened to me. I'm here as a survivor. I, to my dying day, will stand by every word of my testimony.
Jury ultimately didn't believe her. Why do you think that is?
There seemed to be very few subjects on which she was willing to make any kind of concessions, and I think there may have been a credibility gap.
A binder worth of years of notes that were taken by my doctor.
The judge ruled those notes were hearsay and inadmissible. Amber plans to appeal and to move on.
As far as the appeal, I have no idea what grounds they're going to allege, but we don't think that there are any viable basis for appeal.
I'm, less interested in sitting here, relitigating it with you. I'm here to just kind of talk about it from what it felt like for me as the person who sat there.
And I think that's where it seems that Dr. Kari seems confused.
So Dr. Hughes she stated that she administered 12 tests. In actuality, she used 8 checklists.
It could be easy to be swayed by AH's words. From here on, I'm going to let the clips speak for themselves, but let's take a few minutes and dunk on what AH is saying in this latest interview clip.